Good energy, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Energy Talks. I'm your host, Iman Arubai, Renewable Energy Engineer. This episode is sponsored by Integrated Safety International Services. Today, we're diving deeper into the exciting world of green hydrogen with a very special guest from Hydrom. I'm really thrilled to introduce you, Rumaitha, Business and ICV Development Manager at Hydrom. How are you, Rumaitha, and how is your energy today?
I'm good, and energy is very up and up with the upcoming Green Hydrogen Summit. So, all in good spirit. Yeah.
Perfect. So today's episode is also continue to the green hydrogen world, and I'm gonna ask you a related question to Hydrom. So to begin with, Rumaitha, can you briefly explain what Hydrom is and how it was established? What roles does it play in advancing green hydrogen in Oman and globally?
Sure. So, Hydrom was formed back in October of 2022. So, we're going to be celebrating 3 years in October, hopefully. And we came about as a result of the hydrogen strategy that Oman announced back in the same month. And as you know of the strategy, the targets were set at 1 million to 1.5 million tons by 2030 and up to 8.5 million tons by 2050. And the government realized very quickly that because this is a new and nascent market, specifically for Oman and also the world, you needed a mechanism that was able to move multiple things together to ensure that you had the policies in place, you had the supply chain in order, you had the demand, and you had all the moving parts happening at the same time and set forth. And that's the role that Hydrom plays. So we lead in some of the requirements when it comes to establishing that journey, but also play an advisory role in some of the value chain requirements. We coordinate in some and also incubate some processes that are required to make sure things are moving forward. So, for example, we play an advisory role when it comes to the regulations. So we are not the regulator. The Ministry of Energy and Minerals is the regulator. And what we do is provide an advisory service to them in terms of the policies and regulations that have to do with hydrogen. And then we lead in the master planning of the full development of green hydrogen in Oman. In February of 2023, we had a royal decree that allocated 50,000 square kilometers of land for green hydrogen production. And we are basically the custodian of those lands, are in charge of master planning the full cycle of all those lands in the middle and south of Oman. And then what we do with those lands is then carve some of them out to make them ready for the market and offer them to the auction. And that's where Oman is very well known in the hydrogen space with the auction process. So we lead that auction, and the companies that end up winning those bids end up signing those agreements with Hydrom as the representative of the government of Oman. And then we kind of continue there with switching into a coordination role with multiple parties like logistics, the infrastructure, incubating some processes that might be required in the future, like aggregating that demand locally, and hopefully coordinating with spin-off industries that will come as a result of this hydrogen story as well.
So amazing work you're doing there in Hydrom, Rumaitha. So in terms of the projects, what are the key projects currently ongoing under Hydrom? So could you give us a snapshot of where we are currently stand in terms of Oman hydrogen journey? You can say any project that are currently ongoing.
Of course, definitely. So through that auction process, we have completed 2 auction rounds and are currently active in the 3rd auction round for green hydrogen projects. The 2 auction rounds that have been completed came with a total of 9 projects that we actually have. 9 projects. We have 6 in Duqm and 3 in Dhafar. The main projects that are currently ongoing are mainly ammonia projects. So 8 out of the 9 projects are actually set for ammonia production, green ammonia. And then you have one project that is set to produce green steel. One is under construction at the moment and has reached FID and is in the moment, hopefully the first phase will be coming online by 2027. And we're all very excited because that actually sets us ahead of our target for 2030 production. And the others are in different stages of finalizing their studies, be it the renewable study, their environmental studies, their feed studies as well.
Amazing. And what about Oman? Why Oman is attracting significant international interest in your view? Like, what makes Oman unique? What are the features that Oman attract these investment from outside and international partnership or investments?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's three things. First of all, the renewables that we have. So we have the best combination, I would say, of renewables, both wind and solar.
Sun is more, maybe.
So this is the misconception that people have
Yeah.
of specifically Oman, because we are in the Arabian Peninsula. People just assume we have sun.
Exactly.
But we actually have wind as well, and it's really good quality wind.
In the south, exactly.
Yes, in the middle and south of Oman. So from Al Wusta and Dhofar governorates, the wind speeds reach up to 11 meters per second. And actually in the Kharif season that we are witnessing now, in the summer months of Oman, we're actually looking at that actually picking up all the way to 15 meters per second, if not more. So that combination of wind and solar actually puts us amongst the top countries in the world that have that combination of both, because it helps with the intermittency of renewables. But also, interestingly, is our location. We're bang on in the center of two demand centers that require a lot when it comes to the energy transition and decarbonization. So that's Europe and the Asia Pacific countries. And the most important one is our ambitious hydrogen program. So it's not only that we set targets, we also are sharing the risk with the developers. So they're not only investing and building everything without us putting a hand in this. We're actually holding the investors' hand together, and we're building the infrastructure and not the developers. So we want the developers to focus on what they're good at, which is basically doing the renewables, generating the green hydrogen as a result of that, and doing the derivatives, which is the ammonia, the steel, the methanol. We want them to focus on what they're experts in. And we will focus on the infrastructure. So that's building the desalination plant, providing water pipelines, pure drinking water quality to the developers, connecting grid transmission lines, because a lot of these lands are 100 kilometers away from the port and free zone area. So really providing that connectivity for their green electricity, and also building the gas pipeline for hydrogen. And that's a bigger vision for Oman, because Oman, and Hydrom is kind of implementing that strategy for Oman. It's a vision of switching the economy as well to a hydrogen-centric economy. So it's about economic growth, it's about decarbonization, it's about really being competitive in the market. And that's a vision that we have as well, and something that really has attracted a lot of developers to come into Oman, knowing that we are also sharing the risk and we're offering something that is unique. And we call that the common used infrastructure.
Amazing, Rumaitha. Now let's talk about the infrastructure, as you said. Of course, there should be a readiness regards the infrastructure. So is there a challenges now Hydrom is facing in doing or make ready these infrastructure in Oman? Is there anything you wanted to deliver to them, to anyone, even locally or international, to faster the infrastructure for green hydrogen?
Well, I wouldn't say it's challenges more than opportunities for us to actually come together and work together. There's a lot of synergies that are involved. One of the main things that we're working on is mainly not only infrastructure, but making sure that Oman is ready as an ecosystem. So what are we doing in terms of the ecosystem readiness? There's multiple fronts. One of the key things that we hear a lot from international investors and people who actually are involved in projects know a lot of is permitting.
Yeah.
So it's always an issue, and specifically hydrogen projects are very notorious globally of having a long time frame just waiting for permits to come in. So what we did is kind of do the other way around and find a way to facilitate this. We did an ecosystem readiness lab. So that was basically 2 weeks of intensive brainstorming and coming up with solutions with 32 government entities and private sector players in addition to that, kind of see where are these missing marks. The permitting, as a result of those 2 weeks, we came with one single permit that is awarded automatically the moment the projects are awarded, and they work backwards to meet those requirements. So now an investor doesn't need to fear that they have to wait for a permit before they start working on the land. They can start working on the land immediately, and that has been something that is a milestone, not only for us, but we're seeing a lot of European countries now envious and wanting to kind of implement that model with them as well. Another thing that we're looking at as well is logistics. So an example is our roads are not meant to actually carry the weight of wind turbines that are going to be coming in for specifically green hydrogen production, because they're way taller than the ones that we see in the FAR that are already installed. So that is also something of a whole marathon of getting all stakeholders involved, ROP, SIAD, and all the others, to kind of make sure that we have an enough time frame to set everything up before these imports come in. And how do we stage it? How do we make sure that things are moving forward? Another thing that we're looking at is also workforce development. So if we were to assume that all the 9 projects that we are actually developing are going to come online at the same time, that's not enough workforce that Oman actually has. So how do we develop the workforce to be able to sustain the milestones that the projects are actually moving? And something maybe I missed mentioning about the projects, we're expecting 1.5 million tons of green hydrogen production to come as a result of those 9 projects. So we're on target to meet that 2030 target as a result of those 9 projects. And it's a huge investment. Over 50 billion US dollars is expected to come into the country as a result of those 9 projects. So we owe it to them as well to make sure that we're ready. And then something else that we're looking into is also EPC contracting. Do we have enough? How do we kind of upscale them to make sure that they're able to kind of deliver those projects? So there's multiple moving parts, multiple things that we're working on in tandem to make sure things are kind of built up. Local content is also another thing that we're looking into.
Amazing. Rumaitha, let's talk about the private sector mobilization. How is Hydrom engaging with the private sector players, both Omani and international, to support project delivery, investments, and long-term value capture?
So we do it in multiple ways. One of the key things that we usually do every year is an investor day, to kind of attract as many stakeholders as possible. And that's basically open to both international and local. The main aim behind this is basically doing matchmaking, because that's our role. We facilitate, we orchestrate, and we basically bring in local companies along with international companies, off-takers with developers, EPCs, and other partners as well, to kind of make sure that they have those conversations. Our previous investor day that took place in December last year, we were able to broker 887 connections that actually stemmed into really long-term agreements sometimes, and signing of MOUs and partnerships. So that's something that we are keen on continuing doing, and we will be hopefully continuing to do every year. The other thing that we actually also mobilize in terms of that is also focusing on the local content aspect, specifically in the ecosystem readiness kind of framework there. So looking at opportunities that we can actually bring in some of that supply chain, onshore it here in Oman, but also bring in some local expertise and get local partners to be able to upskill them to be able to offer a different service as well to not only the industry, but also be able to actually open up also regionally.
Okay, so in terms of the community integration and the local development, what is Hydrom, doing to ensure, it's actually both hydrogen and Hydrom, doing to ensure that hydrogen development is bringing both benefits, not only to the national economy, but also to the local communities where projects are based? So
I think because the projects are still very much in their early stages, only one is under construction at the moment.
Which stage?
It's under construction. So the expectation here is we have still started from the very beginning to engage with the local community, be it with the governor's office, be it with the walis, be it with the local community leaders as well, to see how we can actually support them in regards to that. So that has been something that we do ongoing. We capitalize on a lot of the opportunities, mainly when it takes place in the Kharif season and so on. An example would be a lot of the Duqm forums that take place, the Kharif events that take place as well, and our participation to ensure that we engage the communities the right way. With that said as well, the national targets for us as well is to kind of make sure that we capture as much in-country value as possible. And for the 9 projects that we have and any future projects, including the 3rd round of auction that we're currently active in, there is a clear mandate and a clear requirement that the companies or the developers that are bidding for these projects are required to provide their targets when it comes to community engagement, ICV, and also what they're doing to ensure in the supply chain to also help impact positively the local community there. So those are like a given. We have even gone as far as obviously disqualifying some projects because it didn't make sense. There was no value for Oman, and that's the main driver for us. The more value for Oman, the more that we can actually commit that this is the right partner and the right developer for the projects.
So, Rumaitha, this is a question very important to balance things, inlet and outlet. So, what is the current end users for green hydrogen projects? What are we going to see? Like, for example, the hydrogen cars. Is there anything also to use hydrogen, green hydrogen in? And what are the plans that hydrogen is set currently for this balancing between inlet and outlet?
Definitely. So there's a difference between current end users and future end users. Cars is considered something that will come in the future, but not necessarily something that will be currently used now. Current users, which is something that is the most focused on because that's the quicker wins, the ones that actually help when it comes to decarbonization as well. You're looking at refineries because they do use green hydrogen as feedstock, or hydrogen in general as feedstock, so just switching to green hydrogen would be useful. You're looking at steel manufacturing that actually uses that.
It currently uses, right?
Yeah, so they're all using hydrogen as feedstock. So those are the main current users that you're looking at.
Okay.
Any industry that uses hydrogen as an input to their process. What they use at the moment is gray hydrogen, which is the hydrogen that comes from natural gas.
Exactly.
And that process. And the idea here is to use green hydrogen because it's much more cleaner. Green hydrogen comes from electrolysis, which is usually using wind and solar power to power that electrolysis, which is splitting water into its original elements of hydrogen and oxygen, and then using that hydrogen as a result of that process in those processes. So these are the things that we're looking at. Another main use is fertilizer and green ammonia.
Yeah.
So these are
For
what you will hear.
transportation.
Not really for transportation. You can use it for fertilizer in agriculture. You could use it for even power. Japan, for instance, have clear targets of using ammonia to fire their coal plants. So instead of coal, you use ammonia. So these are the ways that are currently being used and will be continued. You have other future uses, which includes mobility, shipping, aviation. These are a lot of transportation in general.
Yeah.
These are the ones that you will look at in the future. But for now, you will hear a lot on steel, ammonia, and methanol as well.
So there is a plan to where this green hydrogen is going at the end.
Yeah, or else you wouldn't have projects under construction. They know exactly where the projects will go and who the off-takers are.
Amazing.
And that's basically the discussion at the moment of how do you match make between the producer at the moment and who wants that end product.
Now let's talk about the SMEs participation or integration. How can a small and medium Omani companies can get involved in the green hydrogen opportunity? What things that they should do, or are there any plans to create targeted programs to support the SMEs to entry into the value chain?
So in terms of programs, they exist already. So specifically, Riyadh has had a programs that targeted renewables and hydrogen. We've been a proud partner of that project as well in terms of kind of providing a lot of information and background information on hydrogen, the projects and the opportunities that are there. In terms of opportunities, it's basically a new field. So all the value chain are opportunities that you can capture as a small or medium enterprise.
Could you explain what are these programs in a
Yes.
nutshell for the listeners?
So Riyadh has a program specifically, as I said, on renewables and hydrogen. That was actually launched last year, assuming that that will be continuing for this year as well. This targeted small and medium enterprises that are within the Riyadh ecosystem that are focused on these and making sure that they're upskilled and provided the right information to be able to scale up. The other thing that I mentioned as well is that the opportunities are quite vast. So you have everything from connected industries like renewables and solar panels, wind turbines and components of specific wind turbines, electrolyzers to e-fuels to derivatives to anything in the infrastructure, pipelines. These are all opportunities that already are there, and it's for these companies to kind of come and capture those opportunities that are there. So these are the things that we're working on as well within the ecosystem readiness framework, that what are these local content opportunities that we can capture, make it ready for the market, and then offer it to small, medium enterprises or even investors that are interested in kind of coming into this field. But I could tell you this, that the opportunities are quite vast, and it's up to the business owners themselves or those who aspire to be business owners and entrepreneurs to capture those opportunities. On our website, we've actually, even in our pack, mentioned all the raw materials that will be needed by 2030 and 2050. A simple example is, for instance, electrolyzers. We need 5,200 electrolyzers by 2050. There's loads of raw materials when it comes to aluminum, to silica, to cement, and so on that is required. So there's a lot of opportunities that are there to be captured as well.
So there is opportunity, just people need to apply to the Hydrom website, the pack, and they can just register there.
They don't need to apply. It's free and available for you to kind of capture that information. It's basically information for Oman. We've done that kind of number crunching, and it's there for everyone to kind of see and also know what they in terms of capabilities that are able to kind of offer, with connection to green hydrogen, because I see as well there's a lot of misconception of what hydrogen and green hydrogen is, and everyone who wants to do everything kind of comes to Hydrom without having a clarity on exactly what we do. So that pack is there to provide that information and to kind of guide you as well on the opportunities that you're able to kind of be part of.
Amazing, Rumaitha. And Rumaitha, looking ahead to 2030, it's near 5 years from now. So what would success look like from your perspective, not just in terms of hydrogen production or the project we have mentioned, but in terms in the local content, the workforce that you say, participation, and the private sector development? What are the main success pillar that Rumaitha is seeing right now?
So I would say what keeps me excited at night is the opportunities. Hopefully by 2030 we'll have production of green hydrogen in Oman, Omani produced hydrogen leaving the country and moving shores to another geography, and us being known for that. But also something that also makes us very proud in Hydrom specifically is the launch of the first liquid hydrogen corridor that we actually announced back in April under the auspices of His Majesty Sultan Haytham in the Netherlands during his royal visit with the King of the Netherlands. And that is something that we're really keen on seeing happen on the ground then. With that, I think the ripple effects are there. Like I mentioned, there's so much opportunities as a result of these projects coming into the country. So the ripple effects of getting more private sector participation and more workforce development and more local content will happen as a result of all these efforts that we're doing, specifically when it comes to the ecosystem readiness, getting more projects coming online as well, and getting more interest internationally on the round 3 auction, and hopefully round 4 and round 5. So these are things that are making us excited, and we always have a target of maximizing value creation for Oman. And this will always be the North Star for us to guide a lot of the activities that we do until 2030.
Fantastic. Rumaitha, thank you so much for sharing your insight, knowledge, and energy today with us. That's all for today's episode. I'm Iman Al-Rubai. I will see you in the next episode with another exciting energy topic. This episode is sponsored by Integrated Safety International Services. Until then, stay renewable.